verified. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Hello, captains. Don't mind us. Tony's still working on his microphone, but
no, you can mind me now. You can mind me. It's okay.
Yay. There we go. It sounds better now.
I can be minded.
Great. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the live broadcast recording of episode 467. My mind
8.671. Mark 12.
It's still in the 200s. I don't know why.
8675309.
I've been doing priority 1 for 4 years. No, it hasn't been 4 years.
Well, I mean that's not a false statement.
You have done it for 4 years. And then some.
And then some.
And then some.
So, thanks for holding down the fort last week, guys. I really appreciate it. I still have...
bits of it floated away, just to let you know.
What?
We held it down, some of it, but some of it floated off.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard it in the episode.
Okay, all right, good.
Well, mostly after hours, when nobody was kind enough to tell me that you guys did a watch along. So
yeah,
sometimes
it was in the recording.
Yeah, but Tony, here's the thing: is that I look at WAV files like the Matrix. I see burp, breath, empty space, burp, breath, empty space, and sometimes I like for after hours.
You're watching us burp? That's disturbing.
I will legit just go in and clean it up a little bit, just like for those things. So all this, I'm watching the waveforms for after hours, going, what the heck happened? That these guys were like silent for minutes at a time. What? Gee, the conversation must have really dragged. And then in one of the moments that I had cut, I heard all of a sudden, haha, did you see that? Blah blah blah. I'm like, these guys did a watch along. And so, whatever. It wasn't like hours I spent, but it was a good 20 to 30 minutes of me, clip, and then Control Z.
I call scandal, good sir, because I believe we've billed that show as an unedited podcast to our patrons.
It is unedited. Sometimes I'll clean it up just a little bit, just so it doesn't sound like garbage. But
scandal.
Oh yeah.
So the unedited show is in fact edited after all.
It is not nearly the way Priority 1 is edited.
Difference of degree, not of kind.
What? We edit Priority 1? What? It's news to me.
Though we do. They're saying I'm a little low. I'm gonna bring up my audio just a little bit here, see if that helps. Actually, I may do it here. All right. Hopefully that helps a little bit. And yep. All right. Ooh, gee. All right. Why don't we do a show, guys?
Why not? Sounds great. Let's do that.
All right. Well, Oh, by the way, I heard your little red button rant, and I was gonna record something, but I chose not to.
You chose not to? You chose not to.
I was gonna record a little. I was gonna interject and insert, but I was like, no, I'm too tired.
We'd like to thank you for the enormous amount of restraint you've exhibited lately.
I am so glad that you recognize the amount of restraint. Thank you. Thank you.
It's laziness. It's not restraint.
Right,
he wanted to do it. He wanted to, but then he just went,
I didn't want to have to plug in this good microphone, just unplug it again.
Blah, blah, blah.
Different sides of the same coin.
Podcast problems. All right, I'm gonna hit the big red button in 3, 2, 1. This is Elijah, intro sync 1.
This is Kat, intro sync 2.
This is Tony, intro sync 3.
And this is Skivvy, intro sync 4.
I'll do intro in 3, 2. This week on episode 406. Don't forget to silence your cell phones, kids. This week on episode 467 of Priority 1, we trek out Picard's meeting with Superman, Sir Patrick's activism, Dr. Crusher's possible return to the Star Trek franchise, and the death of a captain's log. I feel like we should do a flush joke there. In Star Trek Gaming, we talk Timeline's Someone Like Me event, a Roddenberry recovery mission in Sansar, and Andrew Looney of Looney Labs joins us to talk about updates to the game Star Trek Flux. Hello, Captains. You're listening to episode 467 of Priority 1, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, your weekly recap and review of all the major news happening in the Star Trek multiverse. This episode was recorded live on Tuesday, June 30th, 2020, and available for download or streaming on Friday, July 3rd at PriorityOnePodcast.com. I'm Elio.
I'm Kat.
And I'm Tony.
And in the audio booth is our chief engineer, Skiffy.
Hello, guys. Again,
guys, thanks so much for holding down the fort while I was away last week. I appreciate it. Thank you. You guys did a fantastic job.
Well, we're glad to have you back.
Yes, we are. But before we jump into the news, we want to invite you to join in our weekly conversations, whether via social media platforms like Facebook.com/Priority One Podcast, on Twitter or Instagram at Priority One Pod, or by email to incoming@PriorityOnePodcast.com.
Captains, this production, unfortunately, is not a inexpensive endeavor. There are running costs to making sure that you get this show every Friday. Thankfully, we have the support of our patrons over at patreon.com/Priority One. And we ask you to join that family. In return, we have special perks like an entirely separate show that we call After Hours, just for our patrons. Now, we understand that during these very difficult times, a financial contribution may not be in the cards, but one other important way that you can support this show is by sharing it. If you have a social media account, be sure to follow us. And then when we publish our shows, hit that share button. It's your support that keeps us going.
Is that it? I never know when you're done. Yeah, I need like a...
And scene.
Yes. Now let's check out the latest news from the Star Trek Multiverse.
Cool. So, any fun... I did not watch the live stream, though. So how was
You were
that?
hopefully asleep because you
wait.
said you were
I was.
sick.
Yeah.
Who won the
Okay,
pool because
good.
we placed bets on whether he'd watch the live stream.
Yeah, I mean, we figured you'd at least like start it off, like you'd watch the beginning of it just to make sure we actually like started on time ish.
I get notifications that you guys went live, and then I was hopped up on muscle relaxers. And I slept like a baby.
Well, good. Glad you're better.
All right. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do this. All right, file, new audio file. How are you doing, Tony?
What? I'm fine. What have you heard? I'm okay. I'm okay. What? No, I'm good. I've had a headache today. Has anyone else had a headache today?
No.
I think it's because of the dust.
Maybe. Could be. That's my big complaint.
The Saharan dust?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've had the weather's been weird. Like it wants to storm, but it doesn't. That maybe it's the pressure systems or something.
Mm-hmm.
But
I get headaches before the storms.
Yeah.
I've been
So
completed.
that's my story today.
I'm sorry, URL. Thank you for...
That's okay. It could also be the enormous weight of hair on my head. That could also be the other thing.
You know, that's a true thing. Like, I can't put my hair up in a ponytail really anymore. I have to like split it into two because otherwise you get like that Brazil, the chick from Brazil face, and it's like gives you a headache, and you have a hair headache. I call it.
I don't have that yet, but I'm looking forward to it if I don't go get a haircut. Actually, I was talking to a friend of mine who's like talking lawyer things. He was going to hire me for something. And I quoted him the rate, and he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you an extra $5 if you cut your hair." And I'm like, "Ooh, no, maybe I want to see how long it'll go."
Death
No, I'm just waiting for the ponytail.
You're gonna,
you're
beat me
getting
to
pretty
it.
close, man.
Yeah, you're getting there. You are getting there. You're gonna beat me to it by a long shot. I'm still months away, I think.
I'm like, now I want to put my hair up.
Yeah, she's got two. She says she can do two ponytails. She can like give you one. She can send you one.
Yeah.
Just chop off the left side of your
Allie-
head and mail it to him.
Plenty.
Allie's really eager to braid my hair. I'm probably gonna let her do it.
Nice.
at some point.
Okay, have fun with that.
Send pictures.
No pictures.
Yeah.
No one will
Picture
see
it didn't happen.
Video. I want
Well,
full motion video.
You know what? You guys can use your imaginations.
Oh no! Somebody out there will be kind enough to Photoshop that for us.
We'll have Jason Smith will have that to us by the end of the night.
Yes. Yeah. All right, you guys ready for Trek It Out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the big red button in 3, 2, 1. This is Elijah. Trek It Out, Sync 1.
This is Kat. Check it out. Sync 2.
This is Tony. Check it out. Sync 3.
This is Skiffy. Check it out. Sync 4.
Trek It Out in 3, 2. Captains, you know me. I like to get controversial. You know me. I like to get controversial on this show. I like to stir the pot, so to speak. And what I'm about to say is no different. Star Trek is, in fact, the best science fiction franchise. And although Jake really wants me to say Superman, Batman is the true king of superheroes. Better than I'd say Captain America, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Superman all combined.
You're going off script. You're going off script again,
I'm
man.
I'm going off script. How dare Jake try to put those words in my mouth? Batman all the way. But anyway, imagine our excitement when we learned that Captain Jean-Luc Picard and Kal-El would sit down to interview one another. This week on Variety's Actors on Actors, Sir Patrick Stewart and Henry Cavill met through the magic of modern technology to talk about their lives, careers, and Cavill's first time meeting the legendary thespian. The pair discussed their love of being on stage, playing someone other than themselves, and Stewart recounted how his early experiences as the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School translated into the ensemble elements of Star Trek The Next Generation. Quote, Tony, do you mind reading just to give it some...
You mean to read the quote? Okay. I had been thought of as being a bit weird while I was growing up because I wanted to act. To my friends, it was just, I was a show-off and that was all. And it wasn't true, there were other reasons. But then to find a whole community, a society of people who felt just like me. And then I think it's one of the reasons why I've come to love company so much. Whether it's on stage or doing a show like Picard or Next Generation, we were a company. I continually insisted that we should think of ourselves as an ensemble. There wasn't just Jean-Luc Picard sitting in the captain's chair, but we were a group who were united in doing one thing. End quote.
Stewart discussed his role of co-executive producer on Star Trek Picard, and after admitting he wasn't a writer, did give Cavill some insight on how he contributed to Picard, saying, quote, go ahead, don't.
Again? Okay. I loved being in that room. I wish that I could have recorded every moment that I sat with our writers. But the only things I think I actually contributed in terms of dialogue were jokes. We had a piece about one of the other characters. He's reading a very famous, I think, Asimov book, a science fiction book. And I said, I can never really get into science fiction. It didn't mean anything to me. To have Captain Picard talking about science fiction as though it was an alien concept was something which I really enjoyed. And tea, Earl Grey, decaf was my idea as well, because I thought it was time to have some jokes from the captain. End quote.
Now the conversation is a little over an hour and covers Stewart's praise for his Picard co-stars, strolls down memory lane, and his love for Sir Ian McKellen. Now, if you didn't love Henry Cavill and Sir Patrick Stewart before the video, well, you certainly will after watching it. So be sure to catch it on YouTube by clicking our link in the show notes.
We were having that discussion just the other night on, I can't remember what we were doing. It was a Guard Frequency bunch, but older science fiction doesn't ring anymore. Like, I've read some of the classic stuff from the 50s, and we know much more now, and so you pick it up and you read it and go, you just can't get into it.
You're talking about like Asimov or...
Yeah. Some of his early stuff, one of his books that he wrote under a pseudonym was called The Oceans of Venus, where they thought that the surface of Venus was a giant ocean. That's why it was so cloudy. And so you read that and it's like, okay, if it was some other planet in some other solar system, this might work, but it's called The Oceans of Venus. So it's like it takes you out of it right at the beginning.
It's interesting.
Kind of like
go ahead.
Kind of like how Endgame ruined Back to the Future for me.
How Endgame ruined what?
Back to the Future. It's a joke. Never mind.
Oh.
Have you
it's funny you bring that up because I don't know.
It wasn't a good joke. I don't know.
So it's funny you bring that up because
Endgame, the movie, Avengers. Forget it.
Oh, the joke that Don Cheadle does. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. See, that was a deep cut, Skippy. That was a deep cut.
Anyway. So, it's funny you bring that up because I don't know if you had the opportunity yet to watch the second season of The Twilight Zone on CBS All Access. It is actually a really fun revisit to that old sci-fi. So, the last episode involves, these aliens and, it's very deep and contemporary, and yet harkens back to older science fiction. Like the aliens themselves look like cheap. What's the name of the Star Trek aliens in the cage? Not Tholians.
Telosians.
Telosians.
Even the aliens in this episode look like cheaper Telosians. But still, there's that charm to it. So it made me actually. This second season of Twilight Zone made me want. The second season of Twilight Zone actually made me want to read a little bit more of Asimov and others.
Well, it depends on what it is, and I think the difference is that when you look for if you want to look at it from Captain Picard's shoes, he's reading about what ancient Earthlings thought about the future. It would take him right out of it. Like, okay, all the things we know about space travel, I have to throw away and put myself into the shoes of somebody 500 years ago thinking about space travel. Whereas Twilight Zone is like, we recycle stories that were maybe anachronistic in the 50s, when looking back at it now, but they can be updated because society and the world hasn't changed that much. So I think there's a difference there. And I think why, even though it was a funny throwaway line that Stewart made, I think there's some truth to it now, even looking back 50 years, reading certain science fiction today. Everybody smokes. Everybody smokes cigarettes in the Asimov books. It's just so weird.
Well, Raffi smokes whatever powdered stuff.
Well, she does
Snake
the electric
Groot.
lettuce. That's the different thing. Of course, people are going to do that in the future. I mean, come on. It's like,
Right. Well,
sure.
Well, again, we encourage you to check it out. It's a Zoom call with the two of them. It's a little long in the tooth, a little bit, but there's definitely some interesting conversations that they have. And even as actors, they have a wonderful conversation about auditioning. What actors should think about when they go into an audition, leaving an audition. How Sir Patrick evolved as a director and as a producer, learning on TNG. So definitely be sure to check it out.
You had me at Henry Cavill. Heck yeah. I mean, Patrick Stewart too, of course, but maybe he gives up some info about season 2 of The Witcher.
No, you can't do that.
Can't it be
You can't do
awesome?
that.
Just try tossing a coin.
Yeah. I'm getting the hurry alongside here. Okay. Sir Patrick was busy this week. On June 24th, the 79-year-old Picard portrayer spoke with TV Guide about Star Trek naughty words and the importance of activism. Stewart talked about the use of profanity in Star Trek's newest offerings and his reaction to first reading the vulgarity in Picard's script. Quote, I think that Picard had actually taken an active decision not to abuse language that would be unpleasant for people to hear, whether it is abusive or offensive in some way, and he stuck to it. Even if he wanted to say, damn, blast, or whatever, he would, for the most part, manage to deny himself that pleasure. When I came across the first swear word in the script, I can honestly tell you, I was deeply shocked. I grew up in a family where swearing was second nature. Every other word was a swear word, and yet when I read, it might have been the F word that I read, and I was shocked and unsettled by it. I think I did have a conversation with Michael Chabon about this use of language and how comfortable were we with it. It was something that had never been a part of previous Star Trek, end quote. Stewart moved on to the more important issues, discussing the necessity of youth activism and the heroism of those involved. Quote, there are so many ways in which we've recently seen this illustrated. The young woman, the teenager who held her telephone camera up long enough so that the horror of what was being done to that poor man, George Floyd, whose neck was being knelt on. It was a young woman, Darnella Frazier, who brought that to us. Our world environmental hero is a young woman, Greta Thunberg, at the moment, and that is going to continue as well. We're seeing examples of social commitment and of opposition to all forms of racism. It's one of the few things that I do find encouraging about our society today. End quote. For a link to the interview, check out our show notes.
He goes on to say that he and his wife were talking about his desire to attend a protest in Los Angeles because he does believe in it. But he decided not to because he is at risk. He's an older gentleman and the virus
a national goddamn treasure.
And a national
Excuse
treasure.
me, I said naughty words that he doesn't like.
And we still don't have this pandemic under control here in the United States, which is a conversation that could be had, but we won't. But here's the thing about it, and let's say he listens to the show, great. If not, someone pass this along. Is that these movements are not a sprint; it's a marathon. right? These protests, these calls to action are starting to fade in the media news cycle, but there's still a long road ahead, right? We have elections coming up in November. Please, if you haven't already, make sure to register to vote. Check your voter registration status. Just go to vote.org, easy website to navigate through and check your voting status, and even look into vote by mail. But the Black Lives Matter movement and other social justice movements are not a sprint. It's a marathon. So I hope that he can take up other projects or endeavors that help raise those voices when he himself may not be able to actively and physically participate.
Okay. Well said.
I'll give you the go-ahead sign since he's not doing it.
I'm just making sure, like, all hell isn't going to break loose in a minute. Okay. So far, so good. Wherefore art thou, Dr. Beverly Crusher? The Enterprise's chief medical officer and on-again, off-again love interest of Captain Jean-Luc Picard was a glaring omission in Picard's first season. According to Dr. Crusher, or should we say Gates McFadden, that may change. Speaking with TrekMovie.com on Monday, June 29th, McFadden not so coyly indicated that she may reprise her role in Picard Season 2, saying, quote, "Well, I don't know. There's a good chance, let's put it that way. But I have no contract signed," end quote. McFadden also talked about Crusher aforementioned relationship with Picard, recalling, quote,
I think it's supposed to be Crusher.
Oh, whoops. McFadden also talked about Crusher's aforementioned relationship with Picard, recalling, quote, "The character had become matron-like, and it was just weird. I was no longer really the love interest of Picard, and that was one of the primary things I was hired by Gene Roddenberry himself as the love interest of Picard. That got changed, and that wasn't changed by me," end quote. But could we see Gene's vision of a Picard-Crusher ship come back? McFadden isn't so sure. Quote, "I think that Patrick made a decision at some point that he was opening it up to other relationships in our show, and in the movies, certainly. So I can't imagine that it's suddenly going to be different, but it doesn't mean that there's not a relationship there. Obviously, from all our scenes, there is a relationship, and that's great, so who knows? I have no clue, but it would be lovely," end quote.
You know, I probably would have said, nah, they're not coming back. Maybe 4 episodes in, up until they announced season 2 of Picard, and now I'm like, all right, now they're gonna bring them all back eventually in some sort of fashion. But I'll be really
as if it's
sad.
a bad thing.
Well, I'll be really sad if they don't address the sexual tension between Crusher and Picard.
Well, okay, that's awkward, but I want to. After 30 years, I don't know if there's any tension left, but I do want to see. Oh, do you want to tell you what I do want to see? I want to see them go back to what they didn't see in All Good Things. They got married and divorced
right.
in All Good Things. So I want that. I want them to at least address what happened there.
You know, it never happened though.
Right, because it was the magical Q time, whatever. But I want to see in the not magical Q time how that played out.
Wait, Skiffy, why are you saying that you know that didn't happen? We don't know that didn't happen.
No, I'm saying what was portrayed in All Good Things did not come to pass.
You're saying that timeline no longer exists? She's not the captain of the past year?
We don't know what happened between that time because that
Picard still wound up on the vineyard.
Yeah,
right.
So who knows?
I don't think there's any canonical reason to believe that those events that we saw in the future in All Good Things were erased after Picard closed the reverse time black hole.
I'm saying there's no canonical reason to believe that they did.
Well, we know Data's dead. Data didn't go to Oxford. We know that. So, I mean, there were some changes.
I guess.
There
Well,
were changes, but that wouldn't necessarily affect Crusher and Picard, though.
I guess. I don't know. I would love to see some sort of explanation or exploration of that love that they had. You know, I think that, you know, love takes many forms for sure. They certainly had love between them, and I think some of that was intimate. And that'd be great. That's a great power couple right there.
I actually like their relationship
Crusher.
better as it is. I actually like their relationship better as it was portrayed in TNG. I like that there was a little bit of tension, but that they were just really good friends and could count on each other. It to me kind of harkened back to Spock and Kirk. Like, it was that level of a relationship, but it was with a man.
Well, Skiffy, I can direct you to some amazing fan literature regarding a relationship between Kirk and Spock. I mean, it just takes a quick Google search. But
I'm sure you're well read in all those materials, and you can brief me on them later.
He'll download them from his personal collection. He'll email you a Dropbox link. It'll be fine. It'll be great.
Well, that brings us to our first community question this week. Do you want to see Picard rekindle his romance with Dr. Crusher? Let us know in the comments section for this episode at PriorityOnePodcast.com or by replying to just reply to our community question post on our social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Ah, shit.
What?
You can either give it to somebody else, or someone else can reread the community question.
Go ahead and Tony, or Skiffy, why don't you read this?
What? I have lines?
Sure.
Line.
Do it.
Way back on March 18th, William Shatner shared a very Star Trek tweet. Way back on March 18th, William Shatner shared a very Star Trek tweet. This is what happens when I'm not allowed to pre-read the stories.
Trick or tweet.
Trick or tweet.
Trick or tweet.
Take 6. Way back on March 18th, William Shatner shared a very Star Trek tweet with the world, a captain's log. After 100 days of logs, Shatner decided to call off the popular thread in a very familiar way. On June 27th, the Twitter mainstay posted, quote, "Captain's log, stardate 100. I hope you have enjoyed my captain's log musings and rantings on the first 100 days of COVID-19 sheltering. It was the least I could do. It was fun. Oh my." End quote. If you recall, that was a reasonable facsimile of the line uttered by Captain James T. Kirk following his untimely demise in Star Trek Generations. Rest assured, there haven't been any reports of Shatner being crushed by a bridge. We checked, just to be sure. Follow the link in our show notes for Shatner's tweet and a clip of Kirk's demise if you need a refresher.
You know what would have impressed me about this? If he had filmed himself from the waist up on the crapper, flushed, and said that was the last captain's log.
Okay.
That would have been fun.
Right. Okay.
I would have laughed at that. I'd
Funny.
been like, you know what? Kudos, Shatner.
All right. I see what you're trying to do here. I'm going to suggest a couple of rewrites. I have some notes. I'll get those to you tomorrow. Gonna maybe go a slightly different direction, but I like what you've done. I like your idea. I like the structure.
Well,
Good.
the lack
Keep
of a
that.
bidet just kills it.
Well,
We're gonna workshop a few things. That may be one of them, or the entire bathroom thing entirely. We don't know yet.
This is why Anthony's in charge of our social media now, not me. Well, captains, that's all the news we have to trek out this week. Now, let's find out what happened in the world of Star Trek gaming. Everybody hit stop.
Really? Captain, the captain's a toilet captain's log joke, really?
Yeah, why not?
He was feeling a bit flushed.
We went there.
Why not?
I mean, what you should have done.
There,
it was a crappy
first
idea.
Of all, first of all, the bar for this show. I mean, we've set lower. Okay, we've set lower.
We've settled for lower. We should be striving for higher. Like, for example, if you had said something along the lines of, if he had tweeted a Zoom meeting where he carried his laptop into the bathroom, and then flushed.
Okay,
I mean,
sure,
that would have been
fine.
more topical and more COVID. And I mean, the setup could have worked with that a little better. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. These are the notes that I was talking about that I was going to give to you. But since we're still talking about it, I figure I should just give them now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we need to set that up to be a little more topical. That's what I'm saying.
I see.
We'll set up a Google Doc. We'll workshop it.
I'll give you something to be
next
topical
week.
about. So, if you didn't notice, I gave this a new segment now.
Oh my God.
Gaming news. I got to change my file name.
See, I mean, the problem is that we can't change anything because we get letters. Because remember when we tried to change the bumpers between the segments?
Let's just
I do not.
play it
all
in reverse.
those years ago.
I do not.
Let's just play the same bumper, but flip it.
It's the same bumper, isn't it?
No, I'm talking about years ago. Years ago, you had a couple of new bumpers between segments, and you had to switch them back because people got mad because it wasn't the same bumper.
I don't remember.
There's a point in the lifespan of a show where you can get away with changing something and it is fresh, and then once you pass that point, you're locked in because then it's tradition. Like there's a fine line between where things can be changed.
We're at tradition. We're at tradition.
We're clearly in tradition.
We're way
past. Yeah. The ship has sailed.
If
All
you
right.
don't change it 2 years in, you're locked.
You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, ST Gaming. I'm gonna hit the big red button in 3, 2, 1. This is Elijah. Star Trek Gaming Sync 1.
This is Kat. Star Trek Gaming Sync 2.
This is Tony. Elijah, when he said that, sounded like Woody Woodpecker. Sync 3.
Elio. Mi nombre es
Elijah.
Elio. You shall
You
refer
said
to
Elijah
me by
on
my
the sink.
birth. Oh, did I?
You
Damn
said
it.
Elijah on the sink because
Shit.
it sounded like Woody Woodpecker because this is Elijah. This is Elijah.
Damn. I gotta get used to my own birth name. Damn it.
I know, it threw me off because I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah, it
just
threw
happened?
everybody off because they
Well-
think Skippy is going to do Sync 4, right? Or maybe he did. Or he's not.
So, all right. Anyway, I'm pretty. All right, that's it. Twice. Don't abuse the joke. Don't abuse the joke.
I just
All right.
played a clip.
All right.
14-second
Stone
clip.
gaming news in 3, 2.
Skippy Sync 4.
Captains, it's been 3 weeks since our call to action and Cryptic Studios. Okay. Captains, it's been 3 weeks since our call to action. We had a number of people commit to logging off for just 3 days, but we still have not heard from Cryptic Studios. Until that time, we cannot, in good conscience, continue to endorse a company that holds a Star Trek license and has endeavored to support other worthy causes in the past, but will not commit to actionable goals towards inclusivity, equitability, and social justice. So until that time, let's talk about other games.
So, okay, I'll just go. I'm going to not read another gaming news, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Star Trek Timeline's Ripples and Waves mega event comes to a close with Someone Like Me running from July 2nd to July 9. This hybrid galaxy/skirmish event will give the returning 5-star Desert Archer as its ranked reward crew member. Event crew includes last week's 5-star Krenim guest Chakotay, the new 5-star Ocampa Tanis, as seen in Voyager episode Cold Fire, and existing 4-star 7-year ensign Rogue Harry Kim. Look for Chakotay variants, Kim variants, and Warp Theorist or Caregiver crew members to give small bonuses during the event's Galaxy phase. They'll then return medium bonuses in the skirmish phase, featuring the new 5-star Krenim weapon ship, the returning 4-star USS Voyager, and the 2-star Madeline. No, wait, it's the 2-star Valjean.
At last,
601.
we've seen each other plain, Monsieur Javert. No, Monsieur Lemaire. Damn, how did I fuck that up? Shit.
See, Elijah, it's not that we have a problem with the language you're using. It's just that the way you use it sounds so unnatural. It's not a really
It's like
good
it's
fit
forced
for a
in.
Star Trek podcast.
You don't need to have it in there.
That's fine.
If you're a veteran listener to our show, you've heard us mention the Roddenberry Nexus before. It's a Star Trek-focused world within the Sansar virtual reality social platform. They've done a great... so I can't read. They've done great events like virtual fan engagements with insiders like Doug Drexler and Rod Roddenberry. They have amazing interactive Star Trek... all right. They have an amazing interactive Star Trek museum. Wait, there's a problem there, actually. Because according to a contest announcement we've just received, the Roddenberry Museum in Sansar has been a victim of Robberry. Let me do that again. Really?
Okay.
Rodden
robbery.
A rotten robbery. Okay, yeah.
That's just
I was like, that's not making any sense.
That's just bad. Come on.
Wah, wah, wah. Because according to a contest announcement we've just received, the Roddenberry Museum in Sansar has been a victim of a Rodden robbery. Here's what we... I can't even with a straight face.
It's such a good dad joke, even Cat's laughing.
Here's what we're told. Quote, Last night, an unidentified group broke into the Roddenberry Museum in Nexus and stole some of the items in our exhibit. We're not sure who did this or why. Our initial investigation has determined that they've hidden all of the items. Our initial investigation has determined that they've hidden all of the items throughout the various worlds in Sansar. We are turning to you to aid us in the recovery of our collection. Considering the knowledge and talents of Roddenberry fans, we are confident that your abilities can help us return all of the items to our museum where they belong. End quote.
Well, how do you help, you may ask? What's in it for me, you might ask? I don't even own a VR system, you say. Well, let me stop you right there. For starters, you don't need VR to experience Sansar. Just head over to Sansar.com and download the desktop mode client. Then stay tuned to Sansar and Roddenberry's social media outlet for clues. Each clue will guide you to a different world within Sansar where the stolen items can be recovered. For the first 3 participants who find every stolen item, Roddenberry has some great prizes. For third place, a $100 Amazon gift card. Second place gets a $200 Amazon gift card. And the first place winner gets a choice of either an Oculus Rift or an iPad around the $400 mark. So captains, maybe brush up on your detective skills with elementary Dear Data and then get busy solving the case for Roddenberry.
So it's very important that you guys understand that even though this system and this game is built for VR, you don't need VR, right? You can go ahead and launch the game and explore these worlds. And that's the other aspect about Sansar, is that it is nothing but worlds, different worlds that you can explore. A few months ago, actually it might have been over a year ago now, I had joined John for a live event in Sansar. I have an Oculus Rift, so I loaded it up. And first is, yeah, it's a very immersive experience, especially when you are wearing a VR headset. Again, you don't need one. But, I mean, we were on the bridge of the Constitution-class Enterprise, and it was a digital version of what you would expect to experience in Ticonderoga, right? This is just button-for-button recreation. And then there's the Roddenberry Nexus, this museum, where they have 3D scanned these props, these concept sculptures, even one of the concept sculptures for Star Trek. What was the name of the failed project? The one that was
Phase 2.
Phase 2,
Excellent.
right? So you see the ship that was supposed to be used for Phase 2, which looks a lot like the Discovery. And if you happen to have a VR headset, you can actually pick up these items and explore them in digital 3D because they've been scanned. You'll have, as you walk up to an item, you can hear some voiceover, kind of like the same digital, as you walk through a museum, the person speaking in your head, the digital guide. You have Roddenberry doing that. But honestly, what was the greatest takeaway for me in that Sansar world and experience was the people. They are some of the most warm and kindest players that I've ever met in any platform or genre of games that I've ever done. After that one event, I hung out with them a little bit afterwards, and then they started taking me around these worlds, hopping to different environments, some of them created by even them, which is crazy to me. I mean, you talk about the old Foundry in Star Trek Online. Sansar lets you build massive worlds in detail. It's just gorgeous. So, if you've never done it before, if you've never tried Sansar, it's the same guys that made Second Life. It's the same company. Or at least it was. Check it out. Download it, install it. Again, you don't need VR. Explore the worlds. Try to talk to people. They're very friendly. Or participate in these Roddenberry events, because that's a really good way to get into the community as a new player. I don't know.
Okay.
Have any of you guys tried it? Have any of you guys logged into the Nexus or anything?
No.
I have not. Is it? You did a good sales job on it though, and I do.
I know.
I'm
let me.
My VR
look at it.
headset. So you convinced me that I need to go take a look.
And
I
I'm
don't-
almost positive it's free to play.
I think it is too.
Hold on, I'm
I think I downloaded it and tried it. You did a demo once on one of our live streams, like a year or two ago. I can't remember. Where you walked through the museum.
It does say join for free. It's available on Steam, on PC.
Yep, and when you click join for free, it already downloads the application for you. So you can do in-game purchases, like if you want to, I don't know, one of those crazy outfits or something, but the game to explore is free. So there's no harm in participating in this Sansar Easter egg hunt for all the items stolen from the Roddenberry Nexus.
Well, moving on from the Oasis.
know, right?
It really is the Oasis. It really is, man. It's like 2 steps away from the Oasis. It's freaky. All right, I'm done. Tony, whoever wants to. Katoni.
I like that. I like that firm and directional direction. That's what I
Kat,
like.
go ahead. Sweep us up.
That's almost all the news we have to cover in gaming news, except before we open hailing frequencies, we welcome Andrew Looney to talk about the latest... Whoops. Except before we open hailing frequencies, we welcome... Dang it.
You're welcome.
The Looney's throwing me off. That's almost all the news we have to cover in gaming news, except before we open hailing frequencies, we welcome Andrew Looney.
I'm sorry. There's like 4 different things of news. Sorry. That's almost all we have to cover in gaming. There we go.
That's almost all we have to cover in gaming news, except before we open hailing frequencies, let's... Dang it.
You can actually take it from We Welcome.
We welcome Andrew Looney to talk about the latest updates to Star Trek Flux.
Everybody hit stop. Alrighty. Oh man, you want to try to? You want to download it now and or after the show? Oh wait, we have to do it after
hours.
My VR rig comes later this week.
What did you
What'd
get?
you
What did you end up getting?
A Steam Valve Index.
I haven't
After,
finished Alex.
After a steep 9-week wait.
9-week wait. Damn. Well, somebody was telling me that they've been having a hard time finding a Nintendo Switch. Like, I guess gaming peripherals are and consoles are.
It's the lockdown, yeah.
It's a combination of the lock. It's dual lockdown. Like people have more time to experience those things, so they're splurging on entertainment products such as that. And production was already slowed or stopped due to COVID in China, which hit before America was hit so hard. So yeah, it was the 1-2 punch.
I have been really good throughout all of this. I haven't bought any hard. But I am waiting for Zen 3.
It's an exciting chip.
Or you could just get a Threadripper right now. You know you want
No
one.
way.
No. No. Get a Threadripper. You'll never use... Well,
No, I will.
you do video
video
work for
editing.
your... Yeah, you do video editing. Yeah, you might use it.
Nah, it should be fine with me. The Zen 3 should do more than enough. It's not the Zen 3. The Threadripper is not the same socket type, right?
No.
It's a different, completely
No.
different socket
It's
type.
No.
massive. Yeah.
It's huge,
Yeah.
right? It's that big.
Yeah,
It's this massive block. Yeah. No.
It's like 4 processors. It's the footprint of 4 processors. In one. It's massive.
Yeah,
I'm not
Jeff
doing
got
any
one.
You got one?
Jeff got one. Jeff over our frequency, he got one. He was showing off the box. The box was like this big.
I like what Muchen Gaming said. Or no, yeah. The Threadripper is a Pop-Tart.
That's
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is a
about right.
Pop-Tart.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Paul Andre says it took 2 months to find a replacement microphone. Yeah.
I was very fortunate until I ordered VR, and that the first thing I had to wait for extensively was VR.
All right, feedback. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
1 second. Sorry, I had to say something. Okay. Go
All
for
right,
it.
I'm going to hit the big red button in 3, 2, 1. This is Elijah feedback sync 1.
This is Cat Feedback Sync 2.
This is Tony, feedback sync 3.
This is Skiffy Feedback Sync 4.
Feedback in 3, 2. Well, captains, hailing frequencies are now open, and we're ready to receive all of your incoming messages.
Last week, our community question was, if Star Trek's next silver screen offering doesn't feature the Kelvin crew, what do you want it to be about?
On Twitter, Simi writes, maybe an Avengers-style blockbuster movie with the casts of The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, and maybe Enterprise if it involved time travel, combined to fight some major new threat. If done well, could be a heck of a lot of fun. So, I know...
There's
so
a
Anthony,
disclaimer. There's a disclaimer underneath here that we should probably read.
Yes.
I was just reading
Yes,
that.
that disclaimer is that this is not Anthony's ghost. This is actually a different person echoing Anthony's sentiments from last week's episode.
Supposedly. Allegedly.
Supposedly.
That disclaimer already makes it suspicious. I wasn't
I
suspicious
know.
of the feedback until
No.
there was a disclaimer.
Here's the thing. I met Simi at STLV, and so I know it's a real person.
Okay,
It
he's a
wasn't-
real
it's not
okay,
just
all right,
Anthony.
okay,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right.
And he's watching
Okay.
now, I think. He's watching us on
Okay,
Facebook now.
all right.
Can you also confirm, as per the disclaimer, that Anthony did not pay this person to say this?
That I cannot. Simi, I hope you are an honorable man. But don't read the Q conflict that IDW published, because I could barely get through the first issue. It was just so convoluted and slow and boring, and it just did not work well. I don't know. I have this love-hate relationship with the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think that it would work well if DC followed a similar format, but I don't know about Star Trek and having all these captains come together for some big battle.
No. I'm sorry, Simi. I'm sorry that you agree with Anthony. Each of the crew. It goes back to what they were talking about. What Patrick Stewart was talking about in the Trek It Out segment. Each crew is an ensemble, right? They were their own little company, their own little cast, their own little unit. And if you try to mix them and match them, it's fine for a cameo here and there. Or in the instance of Picard, they're bringing in a couple of people from the old ones to make a new ensemble. The one-off thing I don't think works when you combine the crews like that. I just don't think. And plus, the scheduling would be a nightmare. Some of the actors and extras are old now.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Tony there. I just think there's no way you could write all of those characters into a really good story these days.
Well, and I said it last week, and I just don't think the writers have the chops for it. Disney can pull that off with Endgame.
Nope.
But it took a lot of coordination and a lot of money to do that.
You know, I will say this about the whole universe. As I was watching the second season of Twilight Zone on CBS All Access, I was like, why do I get the feeling as though someone's going to come in and say this takes place in the Star Trek universe, like it's the same universe? I don't know, man. I got this weird spidey sense as I was watching it, and I was like, man, I would not be surprised if all of a sudden somebody comes out with some crazy fan theory linking the dots, or CBS outright says, yes, it all happens in the same universe. The Twilight Zone is in fact the wormhole.
Why not? Pitch that idea. Don't go into any more details. Pitch that. You need to pitch that idea.
I don't want to.
Yeah. You call up. Is it Jordan Peele? Is he the one doing that? You give Jordan Peele a call.
Does that also take place on a toilet?
No, not at all. I'm telling you, if you haven't watched Twilight Zone, it's much lighter and I think a little more viewer friendly than Black Mirror. So if you like Black Mirror, but kind of maybe want to watch it with your kids or other family member that really aren't into the hard violence that sometimes you'll see in Black Mirror, The Twilight Zone is a really good series to watch.
I don't need to watch it. I lived it at Disneyland.
Also from Twitter, Hayden Jones says, have the first 4 episodes of Hayden Jones says, have the first 4 episodes of Lower Decks be a combined narrative and put that in theaters, sort of like they did for the animated series The Clone Wars.
Stephen from Twitter replied, there should be a post-Voyager Homecoming time frame within the next-gen era. Maybe send Barclay to battle the Romulan or the Borg. Throw in a couple of Orion slave girls and plenty of Romulan ale, phasers and photon torpedoes. Could work. I would just die to see Barclay doing like a old Rambo thing. They had the old Rambo just had a movie a couple years ago. I'd love old Barclay. That would be great.
And finally on Twitter, the Bay Bandit writes in, maybe something from literary Trek, like Mackenzie Calhoun and the USX, like Mackenzie Calhoun and the USS Excalibur, or Ezri Dax and the USS Aventine. Vesta.
Over on Facebook, both Mark Jenkins and David Hargis had several great ideas for new Trek films. You can head over to our Facebook page for their full comments, but to summarize, Mark would like a new cruise set between Star Trek 6 and TNG, or set after Star Trek Picard. While David thinks a proper retelling of The Cage could make a good feature presentation.
Well, David's kind of going to get his wish with the Pike series.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
kind of get his wish, and I would love to see somebody do the time between. You know what? Okay, here we go. A Stargazer series.
Oh, yeah.
That's set in the right between there, and plus you've got Picard, you've got Patrick Stewart still playing around in the Star Trek world, right? He can get was it James McAvoy? Is he the one that did the younger? Yeah. So they hired James McAvoy to play Captain Picard on the Stargazer.
Damn, Tony, that's a really damn good idea. That's how they really should have relaunched Star Trek on CBS All Access instead of Discovery. Damn,
Stargazer.
Good, man.
That would have been real good. And we know how it ends, right? We know how the series ends. So when they're ready to do it, they had the Battle of Maxia. That would be a hell of a series finale, wouldn't it? Battle of him, the Stargazers go. You do 3 or 4 or 5, 6 seasons of watching the Stargazer, and you know the ship's doomed. You know the ship is doomed.
I know that people would be really mad. Oh, we don't need another prequel, or we don't need to recast, but
Stargazer was out, Strange New Worlds, doing the whole thing. They're out there on the frontier all by their lonesome.
Man, that's a missed opportunity. Damn, that's a damn good idea, Tony. And we were talking about the concept of ensemble, and that's what Discovery sorely missed. Ensemble, right? We didn't get to feel that. And Allie and I will watch something in between Star Trek, like Criminal Minds or something. Criminal Minds is a team, right? Law and Order, SV, they're teams of people working together. And I feel like that's kind of what draws me to some of these shows. I think of it kind of like our own dynamic that we have here on Priority One, right? We all are a character, so to speak, and the chemistry works for this family, right? And I consider you all family. Much like they all consider themselves family on both backstage and on screen, behind the scenes and on screen, for these ensemble shows. And that's what we missed in Discovery. We got some of that back in Picard a little bit, but that's what and Discovery.
But they tried in season 2 Picard,
yeah, and we saw a little bit of that feeling after Pike came on to Discovery.
Yeah, but don't you feel like they did that on purpose because Lorca's not trying to create that sense of community? He's mirror Lorca. He's trying to just win battles and has the crew focused on battle, and winning all the time. And then Pike comes in because he's awesome and he embodies the Federation and it focuses more on the people because then it is a team and a family.
Yeah, I guess
they're gonna try to get it back. I think in season 3.
I hope
right?
so.
I mean, they're stranded, right? They're going to have to. I mean, and that one episode with Burnham and Saru with when he loses his ganglia, and I was crying my face off in that episode. It was very touching. You felt like, man, these guys really are connected.
I think honestly, there's a combination of things. One is that my opinion of it is colored by what we know happening backstage behind the scenes for Discovery, right? In the writer's room,
the production
problems and things like that. But it looks like they're steering the ship towards the ensemble nature, so that Discovery could, in fact, find its footing and feet in season 3.
I think they're going to try, but we already have hints that they're going to start the season off with the crew separated.
Right.
Like they've already said they're going to drop in at different times. So at the beginning, we might see a replay of season 2, where at the beginning things are sort of discombobulated and separated, and maybe they'll try to bring it back together to an ensemble. But I still get the feeling it's going to be a lot of, here's some scenes with Burnham, and often doing her own thing. Here's some scenes with Saru and Stamets and the main characters, and then here's the rest of the lower decks people, the navigator and the helmsman and the tactical officer and I guess the comms officer, right? They're the backup people.
Yeah, true.
I still see there's still kind of a layer.
The B plot.
Yeah,
Yes.
or the C plot.
Right. Yeah. All right, everybody hit stop.
Really should have kept my mouth shut. I really should have kept my mouth shut and just pitched that to CBS on my own.
Well, Duck in Idaho said Enterprise B as a story.
Jamal
but the guy that
in.
plays Harriman is getting kind of old now too.
Jamal Taylor had chimed in and said, we get to see the death of Jack Crusher, maybe their wedding, baby Wesley.
Oh, yeah.
So much good stuff.
So
that
much.
would
So much
be-
good stuff. So much good stuff, and you would recast all those people, and it would be clearly fine to do that. You'd you'd have a young Beverly Crusher who would be make a couple of cameos, but Jack Crusher would be main character.
Ooh, do you think that what's her name that played Sansa Stark? I can't remember her name, but she'd be a good young Beverly Crusher.
More X-Men. Oh, hell yes. What's Sophie Turner?
Yes.
Sophie Turner. Yes, get her for Sophie Turner.
As
Game of Thrones lady? Game of Thrones
the one
girl?
who played Phoenix?
No, yes,
Phoenix,
her.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Jean Grey.
More X-Men. Bring in all the X-Men for all the things.
I love her. I think she's great.
And she would be an excellent Beverly Crusher for the.
Right.
You wouldn't have her in there very much because she's not on the Stargazer, clearly. But yeah.
Right, but but Jack Crusher would be.
Was Jack Crusher on the Stargazer with him?
Yeah.
Is that how he died?
I think so.
That's part of the tension. I think that was part of the tension that he got. I think he got killed on the Stargazer. I don't know if I don't think it happened at Maxia though. I think he died earlier. That was part of the original tension between Picard and Crusher because Jean-Luc Picard was the one that brought the body home.
FYI, so Jack Crusher was the Stargazer's first officer, and he died 3 months later during an away mission where natives turned violently against the visitors.
Yo, Tony, man, you are on to something.
I'm telling you.
Shit.
If any of you people see Stargazer come through on the dailies, I want to know because I'm going to sue everybody. This is my pitch. I'm suing everybody. This is the pitch. You bring in an entirely young new cast. You start off with Jean-Luc Picard getting command of the Stargazer, and depending on how many seasons you want, you either skip around, right? Like you have his first year out there, then you jump ahead to the middle, and then when you're ready to wrap it up, you fast forward to the end. You won't have all because he was there for like 10 years. I think he had the Stargazer for 10 years. So even optimistically, you're not going to get that many. So you sell it as chapters, right? Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, the end of it. Sell it as a limited run, 3 seasons. Yeah,
I've got a perfect director for you, J.J. Abrams.
Shut up.
This is not good radio, Skiffy. What I'm doing to you right now. This is not good radio. Is there a lens flare covering that? Is there a lens flare covering that?
That's what CBS would do to your wonderful idea.
Oh no, hell no.
All right, you guys ready for closing?
Sure.
All right. I'm going to hit the big red button for closing in 3, 2, 1. This is Elijah closing sync 1.
This is Kat closing sync 2.
This is Tony closing sync 3.
This is Skiffy closing sync 4.
I didn't forget you this week, Skiffy. Closing in 3.
Hey, this is a good radio, but is there lens flare on this?
Hey,
well,
Zeph.
that wraps up episode 467 of Priority One, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. But there are more great shows available to you on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. Just visit podcasts.roddenberry.com for a complete list. Then be sure to subscribe to them all. And of course, share them with your friends.
But we can't forget to send a special thanks to some of our Patreon supporters like David K. Rutley and Peter Archibald.
Zeph says, enters live stream to getting Flip the Bird. So, way to go.
Teacher guy replies, timing is everything.
Classic.
It was either Skiffy or Elio. I forget. I've been flipping everybody. Cat's cool. I haven't flipped off Cat. She's cool. Everybody else gets the bird.
Well, here's a
Thanks.
reminder of our community questions this week. Do you want to see Picard rekindle his romance with Dr. Crusher on Season 2 of Picard? Let us know in the comments section. Never mind. Cut that.
Should I just go then?
Yeah.
So don't let us know. Don't send us your
Don't
thoughts.
say anything. We don't want to hear from you. Just ponder
Answer it
this
in
to
your head.
yourself. In your own mind. Meditate on this. Captains, it's important to us that you get your voice heard and that you participate in the conversation. Leave us a comment on our website at PriorityOnePodcast.com, on our Facebook page at Facebook.com/PriorityOnePodcast, or find us on Twitter and Instagram at PriorityOnePod.
And if you're still craving more, be sure to spend time with Winters, Anthony, and me, and the rest of the Priority One Armada. Saturday nights, the Armada broadcasts live to review the latest news from Star Trek Online and the Armada community, including spotlighting some of our amazing members. With regular giveaways, there's something for all Star Trek Online players, whether you're new or a veteran. Follow us on all our social media accounts for broadcast times, and if you'd like to join the Armada, visit PriorityOneArmada.com.
This episode of Priority One is brought to you by our patrons through Patreon.com. Find out more and add your support at Patreon.com/Priority One. Now, even if you cannot make a financial contribution, the next best thing you can do is to share our show. If you're on social media like Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, then be sure to follow us. And when we post an episode, hit that like and share or retweet button. It's your support that keeps us going.
Don't forget to tune in to Priority One Productions' Guard Frequency podcast at guardfrequency.com. Each episode, the Guard will take you inside the universe of your favorite space sims, including a tabletop adventure played out by your hosts. And Heroes Rise brings you up to date with the world of Dungeons & Dragons. Learn all about the latest publications, tools, tips, tricks, and traps in less time than it takes to skin a wyvern. Head over to heroesrisepodcast.com to discover their secrets.
Special thanks to our guest, Andrew Looney of Looney Labs. A very special thanks to our guest, Andrew Looney, for updating us on Star Trek Flux. Thanks to our audio editors, including Gray, William, Brandon, Rand, Daniel, Roscoe, and Skiffy. Thanks to our producer, Jake Morgan, and associate producer, Shane Hoover, with support from Advisory Panda of the Priority One Armada. Together, they help organize and write up our summary of the weekly headlines from the Star Trek Multiverse. A very special thanks to our social media manager, Anthony Cox. Thanks to our graphic artist, Henry Pomper, with support from Jason Smith of the Priority One Armada. Thanks to the composer of our theme music, Chris Watts. But most importantly, Captains, a big thanks to you, the Star Trek community, our listeners, because without your ongoing support, none of this would be possible. Everybody hits that. You know how I know it's gotten louder in this room? So I installed 3 more fans into my tower. And
oh, yeah.
And now I can see them. I can see the wave. I can see the fans.
Oh, you can see the squiggles? See the squiggles in there?
One of them is a high powered fan, so one of them is like blowing at a much faster rate than normal. Or what is typical of a case fan.
All of them pale in comparison to me. I'm your biggest fan.
Aww, you're
and
sweet.
He blows hot air all day long.
That's right.
Well, Captains,
right there.
Well, Captains, thank you all so very much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. We hope that you are all healthy and staying safe out there, wearing your masks. Don't be dumb. Wear a mask. I'm just going to say it. Yeah, way to go, Tony.
Wear a mask.
All right. We hope that you'll stay safe until next week and that you'll join us again here live on Tuesday night as we talk about the weekly roundup of Trek news in the headlines. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for chatting with us throughout the coverage of the headlines and for participating in the conversation. It's always great to have you on board. We hope you'll join us again next week. Until then, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Command codes verified. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.